Ladies and gentlemen, everyone's favorite husband is returning in Wuthering Waves. Yes, Jiyan is back, baby.
Every soul harbors obsessions. Obsessions to be cut when they get in the way. In the name of Qinglong, return to the beyond!
Yes, Mr. Hot Windman is finally back, his abs on full display for everyone to enjoy. If you were not playing, he was the very first 5-star character to come out in Wuthering Waves. He's making his return. I would not say he's a must-need character in any way, but he is very fun, and I really like his design. He's probably my favorite male character in the game thus far.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Super cool looking dude. So let me explain to you how you're going to make him good. What weapon should you use? What echoes should you go for? What substats on the echoes? What should you do for his Forte? What team you should run? All the good stuff. Let's get into the Jiyan guide right now, baby. Now for Jiyan's weapon. His best weapon is actually Verdant Summit, which is his signature broadblade. The one signature weapon I don't have in this game. That's why I don't have it on display for you all here. But that is his best weapon. If you don't have that, the second best is Jinxi's signature weapon, the Ages of Harvest. As you can see, that gives crit rate. Jiyan's signature weapon does give crit damage, and if you don't have that or you're running the Ages of Harvest on Jinxi and don't want to swap it over to Jiyan, you can go get the Lustrous Razor, which is the default 5-star broadblade. This gives attack percentage, so you will have to get that crit damage or crit rate elsewhere in his kit, which will be in the echoes, but this will be mathematically his third best weapon. If you don't have a 5-star weapon and you're wondering what you can use instead, the best one will be the Autumn Trace here with the crit rate. That'll be his best 4-star blade. If you are unable to get this broad blade as it is part of the Battle Pass, the Pioneer Pass, the other options for you are there is the Helios Cleaver, the Waning Redshift, and then broad blade number 41. But the Autumn Trace is his best non-5-star broad blade. Now for his echoes. His best echo set is going to be the Seer Gale, which as you can see gives a bonus to arrow damage, and upon using an intro skill, arrow damage increases. He is an arrow damage dealer, so it makes sense why you want that. If you don't have good Seer Gale, but you have some good Lingering Tunes, that's his second best set. It's also pretty close in terms of math-wise to the Seer Gale, but Seer Gale's 1, then Lingering Tunes at number 2. You should be running a cost format of a 4-3-3-1-1, as you can see here over on the left. As it stands right now, your best 4 cost for this will be the Felian Baringle for the Seer Gale, as it is the only 4-star arrow Seer Gale choice. And then your best option for Lingering Tunes will be the Mech Abomination, as it is also the only 4-cost option for Lingering Tunes. Then as always, it does not matter which 3-cost or 1-cost echoes you run, as long as they are Seer Gale or Lingering Tunes, and that they match the substats you're aiming for. So what stats are you aiming for? Well, that's a good question. On your Felian Baringle, you're going to be aiming for either crit damage or crit rate. This can depend on what weapon you have. If you're running his signature weapon, Verdant Summit, that gives you crit damage, so you could get away with running a crit rate Felian Baringle. If you're running Jinxi's signature weapon on him, that gives crit rate, so you can get away with running some crit damage on him. And if you have the Lustrous Razor, you got to make a decision based on what other things you've got to try and get either crit rate or crit damage. Your 3 costs are going to come out to be 1 arrow damage and then another arrow damage or energy regen, depending on how much energy regen you will get in the substats from others. If you get enough to reach his limit, which I'll explain the limits that you're aiming for in a moment, then you can run 2 arrow damage instead of having 1 arrow damage, 1 energy regen for the 3 costs. And then 1 cost, super simple, you're going for attack percentage on both of these bad boys. Now the substats you're going to be aiming for in order are energy regen, crit damage or crit rate, attack percentage, flat attack, or heavy damage percentage. The reason you want energy regen so much is because he lives and dies by the ultimate. His ultimate is how things go round for Jiyan, so you always want to be able to have his ultimate, which is why you're going to want energy regen on this guy. Now, when you're looking at the screen, the thresholds you're going to want to hit for his stats, which I'm actually not hitting any of these, but I need to work on him. Different story. You're going to want energy regen at the very minimum, 115 to 125%. That is super minimum. You are going to try and get higher than that in order to avoid missing windows where you're going to have his ultimate. If you have this, you may miss an ultimate window, which is not going to be great for your DPS. your main goal should be to get it between 125% and 140% energy regen to be safe and to not have to worry about trying to hit every single attack to gain the energy in order to get his ultimate. Sometimes bosses dodge, things like that. That 125 to 140 is a much safer range to be in. Now, once you get his energy regen where you want to be, the other substats are crit rate and crit damage in terms of importance. Those you're going to want to aim for between 50 and 75% crit rate, and that crit damage from between 250 to 300. If you can get more than those numbers and still have the energy regen and everything else, fantastic. Those are kind of the bars you should be aiming for on your Jiyan. Then for attack, you're going to want it to be between 2,000 and 2,400 plus. You can go as high as you want, as high as you can possibly get, as long as you're meeting the other thresholds I mentioned before. And then arrow damage 40 to 70% on your Jiyan. And those are like cooking numbers. That is, of course, level 90 numbers as well. Keep that in mind. You get more numbers the higher level you are. Those are level 90 numbers, but those should be your aims with your echoes. Now, for Jiyan's Forte, obviously you're going to want to go and get both of his inherent skills. You're also going to try and get all the attack and crit rate bonuses you can get. Don't forget you have these crit rate bonuses, so when you're building your Jiyan's echoes, keep that in mind. But what should be your main focus? Well, that's going to be your Resonance Liberation, his ultimate. I mentioned it before. His ult is where he does everything. You're going to want to focus on leveling up his Resonance Liberation. Then his Forte Circuit and Resonance skill are both right there, interchangeable. And then very last, once you're all done with those, you can go for the intro skill and the normal attack. Now, what does his ultimate do? Well, you enter into a new state called Qingluang mode. In this, you effectively are just a machine at AoE damage. You just scoop up enemies, the small enemies, and just cook them. Or if you're fighting a boss, you're just basically going to be running around dealing damage. You have increased resistance to interruptions, so it's not often that you'll be knocked out or knocked back. Only like big heavy attacks will do that. And it looks like this.
It's true!
Pretty badass, I know. The important thing for his Forte circuit for you to know is that he has a resolve. His Forte gauge is going to show resolve. The two different slots are for how much resolve he has. He can hold up to 60, so it's 30 per half you see filled up. The main thing you need to know is, yes, you can do an attack that uses resolve for his resonance skill, but for his ult, you want at least 30 resolve. It helps you do a little bit of a nuke, and you get this cool animation that's a whole lot better than if you do it without resolve. So make sure you have that resolve before you use the ult. It helps you do so much more extra damage. And then his resonance skill is effectively a dash forward with his lance, and that's really it. You can do it in the air, but as you can see, it's not very detailed here on his resonance skill. Now for Jiyan's resonance chain, should you be pulling for multiple copies of him? I would say that no, you shouldn't be unless you really love Jiyan, in which case if you really love Jiyan, you should go for as many as you like. But if I were to give you a recommendation here, I would say that his S2 is very nice. After casting Intro Skill Tactical Strike, you'll gain 30 resolve and his attack increased by 28% for 15 seconds. That is a super nice one to go for if you're not trying to max him out. You're not a super whale going for your Jiyan and you just want to have a better Jiyan. I think that's a fantastic point to go for. You can also try and then go for S3. As you can see, this increases the crit rate and the crit damage for 8 seconds. During his main important states, the resonance skill or the resonance liberation. After that, 4 is a buff for the team, but it's not really important. You're going to be using him as the DPS on the team. The other two are not there to really deal heavy attack damage anyway. And then if you're going for 5 or 6, you're probably wailing out. It doesn't really matter. You're going to go for him anyway. They give him nice bonuses to his damage and whatnot. So if you want those, for sure go for them if you're a big Jiyan fan. But it's not necessary. Him as a character overall is not necessary to your experience in Wuthering Waves, but he is fun and he is cool. Now, what units should you run with Jiyan? Now, his best team is going to be Jiyan, followed by 4-star mortefi. He is a perfect support for Jiyan. He is made basically to help alongside Jiyan. He is who you're going to want to run. And then you're going to likely run Verina as the best choice there. Shorekeeper is an option if you aren't using Shorekeeper on other teams and you want to run Shorekeeper alongside. She has some just nice abilities and she doesn't take up a lot of field time since Mr. Jiyan is going to be out there for a whole bunch of time. Yes, there is the Shorekeeper where you swap in a whole bunch. You don't have to play her that way. You can just kind of use her ult and then swap to mortefi and then swap to Jiyan and let him cook. but most people are running Verina, Mortefi, and Jiyan. If you don't have Mortefi at all, you can run Alto instead. He is a replacement option, but Mortefi is definitely better. And it isn't as many options as many other teams, but that's mainly because you're just doing heavy damage in his ultimate state, which Mortefi buffs, which is why he's perfect to run alongside. And then Verina is just a great option for healing and all that. But Shorekeeper is also someone you can swap in there instead of Verina. And then if you're real desperate or you're newer to the game, if you don't have Verina or Shorekeeper, you can go and run Baiju. She is an option that you can run instead of either of the other two main healing support characters. And then Mortefi is a 4-star, so you probably will be able to get him. If you can't get him though, then honestly you could probably just run anyone else you want. It's not, you know, once you get him though, rock him in there with your Baiju, or if you're able to go get Verina, or you already got Shorekeeper, then there you go for that. But those are the teams for Jiyan. You're going to want to run Mortefi and Verina if you got the choices. Here's a screen of all the materials you're going to need to farm Jiyan to get him maxed out. Of course, you don't need all of these if your goal isn't to max him out, but this is the max total for all the materials you need to get Jiyan super maxed, ready to go and destroy Wuthering Waves. Now, to show you what it looks like when you're actually using Jiyan, there's a little bit of tech involved in using him and getting the most out of him, so I'm going to show you that right now. Don't really worry about the damage numbers. I don't really have this team built, nor Jiyan himself, so the damage numbers aren't going to look super impressive, but this is the tech you should be using while using his ultimate. He will immediately get 30 energy after you use your attack with Mortefi, or Mortefi's ult, I should say, not his attack. Then you use your skill in there, keep the dragons going, helps you deal more damage while you're swinging everyone around. And that's what your Jiyan ultimate should be looking like. So I hope this guide helps you out. I hope you're able to go cook with this beautiful man. Look at those abs. Just like, look at those abs. This man is just something else. But if you enjoyed, make sure you leave a like, subscribe for more Wuthering Waves content. Let me know if there's a video or Wuthering Waves type of video you want to see me make. I'll be happy to think about it and see if I can pull it off. But as always, hope y'all are staying happy and healthy, having the best days, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.